Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm very excited that you guys are here. But before we get started on learning the secret sauce to declutter your kitchen, to meal prep like a boss, we are going to have a little icebreaker. So I want you to be involved, so you could put this in the chat. When we have time for question and answer throughout the workshop, you can unmute or you could put your answer or questions in the chat. So this icebreaker, the question is, how many hours per day do you think the average person spends in their kitchen? And just so you know, we're going to have a giveaway at the end of today's workshop. So make sure you stick around till the end. So if you know the answer, just guess the amount of hours per day you think the average person spends in their kitchen. And I'll give you another, what time is it? I'll give you a minute. So someone said 5 hours. Amount of hours per day you think the average person spends in their kitchen. Okay, anybody else? Someone says 4. Okay, come on, bring it on in. Anybody else? All right, so we're gonna stop there. So the actual answer is 67 minutes per day. This was a survey done back in 2022, and this was taken from the New York Post, that the average adult spends about 67 minutes per day in their kitchen. So what does that mean for us today? It means that if you have 8 hours a day, right? Or most people, hours are 12-hour days. They're only spending 67 minutes. So maybe in the morning, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe at night, another 30 minutes or so. So most people may not be home. And if they are, they're spending time in the kitchen during lunchtime. Unless you work away from home, then you're spending time somewhere else. You're not at home. So it's 67 minutes. Research also shows that we are dining out more. We're not eating enough at home. We know that when you eat more foods at home, you're going to have less chronic illnesses, lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, lower hemoglobin A1C, and that is a test for blood sugar, and just, overall lower risk of heart disease. And February is, heart month. So that's coming up soon. So that's something to think about. So we're going to get into the meat of the workshop or the presentation. So many people may feel flustered and frustrated. They always seem to have maybe a lack of time when it comes to preparing nutritious meals. And this means that you could have an organized kitchen, and an organized kitchen may allow you to feel like you have no control. You may have difficulty in planning and preparing your meals. If anyone agrees with that, drop an emoji in the chat box because I see that a lot with my clients and my family and friends as well. So for your overall health and your reproductive health to flourish, you want to be mindful of your diet and your lifestyle. And as I mentioned before, research definitely shows that the more foods that are cooked and eaten from home, the lower risk of diet-related chronic illnesses. And nutritious lifestyle starts in the kitchen. That's plain as it's what it is. It starts in the kitchen, believe it or not. So in this workshop today, we're going to talk about ways that you can learn how to effectively organize your kitchen. Some kitchen tools that you may or may not be aware of if you are new to your kitchen or you're just trying to get more into preparing meals at home. Best shopping list strategies, and just a few tips on stocking your fridge and pantry. And if you have a daughter, because we are a company, we meaning I'm the founder of 360 Girls and Women, and 360 Girls and Women is based on girls and women's health. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, but we're going to give you a couple tips to take away with you so that you could get your daughters to be more involved in the kitchen. We have a special guest here. Elizabeth Lowe, which I'll introduce later on. So let us get started into the meat of the presentation, which is learn the secret sauce to declutter your kitchen and meal prep like a boss. We all want to meal prep like a boss. So as a little disclaimer, this presentation or workshop today is only for informational or educational purposes. It is not intended to take the place of medical advice, diagnosis, treatment from your physician or your registered dietitian. You may have your own registered dietitian and you want to follow their guidance. And so reliance on any information here is at your own risk. So this is, like I said, educational and informational. So a little bit about me. Before I got started into the field of health and wellness, I experienced a family member that was going through an illness, and she was able to get off a lot of her medications and manage her illness with natural remedies, herbs, supplementation, and just wellness strategies. And I thought that was so amazing. And I was fascinated. I was like, how are you able to do that? Don't you need medicine to be well? And again, we're not here to talk about medication and natural remedies, but there's a place for medication, there's a place for natural remedies. And that is my story, how I became fascinated into the field of nutrition and into the field of wellness and preventive medicine. I've had my own health challenges as a girl and as a woman, a mother, and I've applied some health principles to help me and to assist my body in healing. And these are the same health principles I share with my clients. So if you're struggling with hormone imbalances, PCOS, fibroids, all the way to regular period and chronic illnesses like blood pressure issue, cholesterol, diabetes, all of these things, I want you to have hope because there's a chance to improve. And I've had about 17 years in the health and wellness industry. Before I became a dietitian, I was working at the hospital. I thought I wanted to be a nurse and things of that sort. So I have some experience there. And as a registered dietitian, I've been in that area for over 15 years. I've worked in pediatrics, WIC hospitals, pregnancy clinics, wellness centers, diabetes, fitness places, fitness centers. So definitely, I'm well versed, but my first love is women's health, wellness, diabetes, and just preventative medicine, integrative and functional medicine. So in addition to being a dietitian, I have my degree in wellness. So I'm all about wellness. And while we're talking about wellness, the presenter today or our special guest has a focus on wellness that is so unique. I had to have her come in today to tell us more about what she is going to be doing with kitchen, interior design, and things of that sort. And just briefly to tell you a little bit about 360 for those who are new to 360 Girls and Women. 360 means completion, and that's what makes us different. We provide personalized insights for girls and women to dramatically improve their well-being. So our mission is to provide evidence-based information and services to help a women's health through the girls and women's health through the complete life cycle. So basically preventing, reversing certain reproductive and chronic illnesses using nutrition as a foundation and other innovative practices. So it's integrative and functional. Whole body health, whole body healing to try to find root causes. So finally, about our special guests. Elizabeth is a mom of two. She has a background in marketing and interior architecture. She started out working in marketing and business for about a decade. And it was at one of the positions she held that she worked that allowed her to do some more interior design. From there, she never looked back and continued on the path to get her interior architecture degree, and then worked at some large commercial interior design firms focusing on large office spaces. Since the pandemic, her priorities shifted, and now she channels her energy, creativity, passion, and expertise towards Designs by Elo, where she is committed to focus on the well-being of her clients, making their living space an oasis, and serving small businesses like herself, where she can fully support in making her vision come to life. She also conducts, as 15 to 30-minute discovery calls with any new clients to see if they're a good fit, and we'll give you information on that as well towards the end. But you can reach Elizabeth at these hashtags here, and her email is here. I'll bring that up again at the end of the presentation. So before we get started, is there any pressing or burning questions we have? I'm going to present first. So just a few slides and a couple tips. Again, this is about an hour, 45-minute presentation. So we're going to just get to the high level, the major points, and then we could talk about other things at another time, or we could have another workshop, another session. So unfortunately, we won't be able to cover everything in great detail, but we're going to cover as much as we can with the time that we have. So any questions now before I do my section, my section, and then I'm going to move it over to Elizabeth to do her section. No questions? I don't see anything in the chat box. All right. All right, so first thing on the list, kitchen tools that save time. For those who are new to the kitchen, and for those who are trying to get time and their time back and their energy back, you want to have a couple of items in your kitchen. And there's more, but the major things that come to my mind are like a toaster oven. Why a toaster oven? It usually cooks faster. It takes up less space than a large oven. Most homes come with an oven, but sometimes it takes more energy if you live in the era where you're trying to save energy. It takes up a lot of energy to heat up a large oven versus the toaster oven. Toaster oven can defrost things, or it's, if you have a frozen item, you could put it in the oven. It could do things from toasting your bread all the way from baking potatoes or making fries, right? You could go a level up and get a fancy toaster oven, but toaster ovens can range from anywhere from $30 to hundreds of dollars. So you don't have to have a large budget to have a toaster oven, and they're different. They serve different areas, so you could shop around if you want more tips and different questions about the toaster oven and what it cooks and things you could replace in it instead of like frying. Sometimes people bake things in the toaster oven as well. And a fryer, the fryers these days that you can use to bake French fries. You don't have to use you don't have to use oils at all. You could do everything in the oven. So a crock pot is a lifesaver. As a mother, I've made meals in a crock pot. Crock pots take a little longer, several hours to cook. They're slow cookers, but you can make beans and different stews in it. It takes several hours. But the great thing about it is you can put your meal together, a one-pot meal. There's different recipes that we could share in the programs that my clients have, and we give these recipes, and you could create a meal right before you go to bed. Put on the safety. There's a safety. Each crock pot sometimes have a safety feature so that if it alarms, if it's overheating or if it's ready. And so some people go to bed overnight and prepare a meal the next morning, it's ready. Or maybe they run an errand and the crock pot's still there cooking, you plug it in and it's fine. There are some crock pots, of course you have to stay behind at home. But as far as safety, it's better to be in the home if you can, but I've had people put safety features on their phone so they know when the crock pot's ready or if it's finished or it's overheated and things of that sort. So it depends. But crock pots, they range from anywhere from $24.99 to hundreds of dollars. So you don't have to have a large budget to have this, but this is a lifesaver. If you are trying to improve your health, you're trying to eat more at home, you definitely want to try to invest in a crock pot, which the lowest I've seen is $24.99. I think that's a great deal. The next thing is a rice cooker. Okay, a rice cooker was one of my first kitchen tools I had when I was in college. If you are a college student, say yes to a crock pot. If you live in an area, if you live in a dorm where you have a kitchen, you could cook things. Even in some dorms allow you to cook things in your dorms. I think mine didn't, but they had an area where you could have a kitchen. And if you want to save money, campus food can be expensive. You could have a crock pot, make a couple meals, put the veggies in it, cook it at the same time, and then you could refrigerate it if you have a mini fridge in your home. If you live in a home with a family, you could feed a lot of people with a crock pot with rice or any type of meals you can prepare in the crock pot. And they have recipes most of the times at the stores. When you buy these equipments, they have all these fancy recipes that you can use. Well, how much does a crock pot cost? around the same, about anywhere from $20, $25, $24, all the way to like a few hundreds of dollars. I think I've seen one 120 or so. There's a wide range. There's a wide range of prices for crock pots, or sorry, for rice cookers, similar to the crock pots. Blender. Okay. Blender is very trendy these days. You can make smoothies in blenders, and smoothies are a really easy to go breakfast type of meal or snack. And if you have a blender, you can save a lot of time. You can meal prep in jars and create different types of fruit smoothies, veggie smoothies, protein smoothies, whatever you want. Refrigerate them, make them for 3 days, put labels on them, and boom, you have your breakfast or your gym post meal ready, right? Blenders, you could also make sauces, smoothies, like I said, smoothies. You could also make soups in blenders. There's a function for some blenders. You could do high heat. You could puree soups if you have children. If you're a new mommy, I've made my own baby food with blender. Everything I ate, my baby ate. I put it in a blender, and I had separate, if I did yam, if I did peas, if I did veggies, or if I did any other type of a protein dish, lentils. My daughter loved lentils. I used to make lentil stews, and then the potatoes and carrots and everything's chopped up. I just blend it and put it in a little jar, and she ate it. So a blender is great. And guess how much they cost? $19.99 was the lowest I saw. Anybody else wants to comment on the cost of a blender? No, nobody else? Okay. Blender is, I think, a must. And $20, if you can invest $20 in a blender, you're going to save a lot of time. Elizabeth, do you agree with me? Yeah.
I love my blender. I actually have the Magic Bullet, and I have the other one, but the Magic Bullet I use all the time for smoothies and just to create something really quick. So it's super helpful and it's super efficient as well on time.
Yes. You got to have a blender if you can. Now, what are other ways you could work around a blender? Well, if you cannot afford a blender, some people have very tight budgets, and if you can't afford a blender, you can get yogurts. Yogurts are great. You could add chia seeds, flax seeds in yogurts. You could, use a spoon, a large spoon, to blend and mix them as well. And you have a little smoothie bowl. You could also cook down some fruits. For example, berries. I've made my own berry spread with chia seed, berries, and a little bit of raw honey, but you could put monk fruit if you're watching your sugar, or stevia, watching your blood sugar. But you can create textures of fruits and cook them down to softer textures by heating them up a little bit, blending them in with yogurts and things, kind of making a little smoothie without the use of a blender. But that's some ideas, and I could talk more about that later because we run out of time already. And then a strainer, garlic press, something that you could use, but I don't even have a garlic press, but I do want one. I just never had a chance to get one. But I use my knife or my spoon to crush my garlic, and I crush it and the shell comes off, and I just chop it up real quickly. I just throw it in a pot whole. So some people, really want to go really quickly in the kitchen because they're really short on time. So these are some quick things that you can use. So there's a lot of shopping list strategies. There's so many, and we could spend actually a whole hour or two talking about how to shop, where you should, how you should shop in the grocery store, items you should have, and it's a lot. But to narrow it down for our session today, I would say the top 3 things when you're thinking about shopping strategies is to make your menu for the week first. You have no idea what you're going to go out to shop for if you have no idea what your menu looks like. How do you get a menu? You could create one yourself based on foods you enjoy, or you could have a registered dietitian help you if you have special needs. For example, if you have PCOS and you have blood sugar issues or inflammatory issues and you need special advice, expert advice, I would say, then you need someone to help you create some meals and recommendations for you. But in general, look in your home, speak to your family, look at your, talk about what you like to eat, and try to prepare those meals, and then try to put some new foods on that list. Once you have your menu planned out for the week, then you want to take an inventory. That's like step 2, inventory of your home. What do you have in your fridge, in your cupboards? so you don't, why? Because if you go out to the store, you have already 2 bottles of tomato sauce and you bought 2 more and you don't need it. That's waste because you could have used that for something else, right? We've all done that. We go to like, oh, I bought another loaf of bread. I already have 2. So then you're wasting money. And then you got to figure out what you're going to do with the other 2 loaves. You got to freeze it or something else. And it's okay sometimes to buy in bulk, but you definitely don't want to create a habit of waste. So check your home inventory before you go shopping. Once you check the inventory, then you make your list. You make your list based on what you need for your ingredients and your recipes for that week. If you're going to shop for 2 weeks, some people go shopping every week or every 2 weeks. Determine your frequency of when you're going to shop, and that will determine how much things you're going to need. And then also look in your kitchen to see, do you have space for these items? Because storage is important. You definitely want to have proper space so things they don't go bad, they don't spoil. You want to cut down on food waste as much as possible because food costs is very expensive. Food costs, is going up. Food is expensive. Food cost is going up. So we want to make sure that you are saving as much as possible by reducing waste. So make a list and stick with it. Any questions about this? Okay, so saving time when stocking your fridge, your pantries. I would say if I could give any advice about this particular topic, first and foremost, make zones of where you'll keep your items. If you have to label it, maybe you should label it so then you'll say, okay, my fruits go here, my dried products are in this cabinet, my carbohydrates. So one strategy is you can zone by letters, zone A, B, C, and just make up as the letters. And then to those letters, know what they mean. If you want to say zone A is your snack goods, you'll have your snack goods in your pantries on the left side, and all your snack goods are here. And so you'll know that that's zone A, snack goods. Zone B, maybe you'll have your quick prepared, you'll have in your fridge or your refrigerator frozen items, and you'll know your frozen ready-made veggies are here. You'll know where to get them in this section. If we think back to the fridge, we know that you may keep your condiments on the left side, your juice that you drink or low-calorie beverages, milks or plant-based milks that you have, they're eye level, so you know when they're finished. You want to keep containers at eye level. You don't want them to be back in the fridge so that they'll get lost and things will get spoiled. So continue to just rotate things in your fridge and have things in the zone within your fridge, zones within your cabinets and your cupboards. That may be helpful for me when I teach a lot of my one-on-one clients. They seem to prefer zoning with a carbohydrate, zoning with proteins and fats. So because I create shopping lists sometimes based on macronutrients, and macronutrients are like protein, carbs, and fat. They're the major energy sources of the body. Carb is a major energy source, but there are three macronutrients, like I mentioned, carb, protein, and fat. And so when I create their zones for them, typically they want to have a carbohydrate zone where they have all their dried goods, their breads, then their rice, their pastas in this section. So it'll be easy to go. Now, first in, first out is a strategy that I've learned in school, in food service class. In this strategy is helpful for anyone. This is something that's practiced in the supermarket as well. When they stock things, they stock the items that are going to expire the first in the front, the ones that take longer to expire, they're in the back because they came in first, right? So you want to take them out and use those items first. So you definitely want to make sure you look at expiration dates and use up items that are going to expire first. So that's the first in, first out method, and that helps to reduce food waste. So any questions here? Let me just check the box. No questions here. Okay. So tips to involve your daughter or your daughters in the kitchen. Because I have a daughter, I kind of know how it is at first when they become that age when they want to get more involved in the kitchen, and sometimes they don't want to get more involved. So it's kind of up to us as the parents to teach our children life skills. You could even teach this to your son. I particularly say daughter because again, my focus is girls and women, but you definitely want to teach this life skill. Cooking is a life skill that everyone should know how to do. They need to know how to cook something that if the case an emergency, they can survive. So when you're going shopping and when you're planning your, unpacking your goods, think about things you want to store at eye level for their age. If she is, 5, 7 or whatever, and they're constantly knocking on your door, oh, can I have this cereal? Can I have this snack? And maybe it's time for dinner or a snack and they are allowed to eat something. So you want them to be able to, to build autonomy and do things on your own. They can go get their snack, but if it's all the way at the top, they can't reach it. They'll fall. It's a hazard. So when you are storing foods, to keep your daughters in mind, especially if they are younger, pack things at eye level so that they can reach it and put it back. And in terms of planning meals, include your daughter in planning meals. So it's not just about planning meals. When you're doing the shopping list, when you're going over the shopping list and making the inventory, going over those zones in your house, going over meals for the week, her lunch, have your children be involved in that process so they know what they want as well. When they choose foods they would like to eat, they're most likely to consume those foods and to eat them more often. This also gives them a chance to experiment with new foods, fruits and vegetables, which we are struggling in the United States with, right? We have a low intake of fruits and vegetables. So incorporating new fruits each week, new veggies, and have them taste it or create recipes with it is a great way of having your daughter to get involved in the kitchen. And during the holidays is perfect. You can remake some cookies, make them a healthier version and say, hey, we're gonna have this particular ginger snap cookie and this is what we're gonna use. And do you have any fun ingredients you wanna try? You could put fruits in there, let them look at the fruits in it and experiment. And my daughter was like, oh, ginger, that's a very strong taste, but I think I like it, right? So you have to experiment with ingredients, with herbs and spices, else they won't, they'll have no clue and they may say, I don't like it, or I'm not sure. They may become hesitant to try new things, but experiment really starts in the kitchen. Experimenting with foods really start in the kitchen. And so it's up to the parents to kind of give that push to have your children or your daughter be part of the entire process. So I'm going to I'm going to stop here before I talk about programs or the giveaway. I'm going to let Elizabeth come on. I'm going to unshare my screen. I'm going to let Elizabeth come on. We're going to talk about the other fun stuff. So I spoke about, the nutrition piece of it, and it's a little bit of organizing your kitchen. And she's going to talk about your space and wellness and why it's so important. So let's give Elizabeth a couple minutes to share her screen.
You see my screen?
Yes, we do. See your screen.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sue Ellen, and thank you to everyone that is here. I'm super excited to have this opportunity to speak about kitchens, as everyone, well, as for myself, and I'm sure many of you, just like listening or just hearing in the chat of what you guys have spoken, spending 4 to 5 hours in the kitchen is a lot of time, in our life. So basically today's focus is really just on the kitchens. So, for those that don't really know much about what interior design is and like what we do and then how we can actually shape their wellness. Part of my practice and part of my focus and commitment is actually, helping clients with a path to wellness in their homes, both physically and mentally. So that is a key component to actually creating like your oasis. As this quote says here, we shape our homes and then our homes shape us. So I just want to dive right into that. So basically, workflow for wellness. So workflow of the kitchen is a big deal, right? I think we all know that. If you live in a home that has, an older kitchen that hasn't been renovated and you just kind of inherited the home and you moved in, oftentimes it's not suitable for us, but it might have been suitable for the family before. So rethinking and just thinking through, how your kitchen flows from where your sink is located to your cabinetry, to your stove, to your refrigerator, like having all of those components in relation to each other and thinking through, like if you prefer cabinets versus open shelving, right? Because a lot of times, like what Sue Ellen is talking about, when it comes to organization and just to declutter in general, oftentimes like there's no space to store things. So really thinking about how your kitchen is used functionally from a day to day. So on this picture on the left side, there's a ton of upper cabinets, right? And then there's a ton of base cabinets here. It allows for opportunities to store pots and pans, to store pantry goods, to store snacks for your children, for yourself. And then on the right side here, you have open shelving, so some people prefer that. And, because it's easily accessible and you can actually see it. Also, the option to have open shelving can also save on costs as well, too, because as we know, cabinetry does have a cost in there as well. And then just thinking through again how the layout of the kitchen can flow. Obviously, there's many types of kitchens out there. As you can see, there's a straight kitchen, from a galley kitchen to an L kitchen, as we can see here. So one of the key components and functions of a functional kitchen is obviously, how these things are in relation to each other. In interior design, we call this the work triangle. Some of you may know what it is. Some of you have never heard of it before, but, just to really keep it really simple for all of you, basically the sum of all three sides should not exceed 26 feet. And this allows for the most efficiency. So if you're preparing food, over here and you're washing your vegetables and you're going to cook it, you basically, you want that traffic flow, right? And that, gives you an ease when you're prepping your food. Does anyone have any questions on that before I continue? Because I really do want this to be interactive. And, if anyone has any questions during this conversation, please feel free to put in the chat or feel free to, raise your hand and, we can keep this conversation as a dialogue. So clutter-free for your well-being. So, having a clear counter space can help so much in clarity of thought. As a mom, as a really busy family, I have 2 children, I have a busy family, husband, families going in and out, it's just busy, right? And oftentimes it's crazy just to have time, just clear your counter space, but in hindsight, like when you really think about it, as you see in this image here, having the clear counter space can really clear up the clarity and thought to cook and be creative. So, I know Sue Ellen had talked a little bit about, appliances and which appliances can actually, help you with your nutrition and your diet. So now really thinking through your diet, right? And how that is integral in your kitchen now, so how do you put those two together? So, really thinking of a space to store those countertop appliances. So your countertop is basically clutter free, right? So, I always advise, you either if you do have the space, put it in a pantry or put it in a cupboard. Under cabinets that actually have doors are really good for that. If you do have the space, having an appliance cabinetry or an appliance drawer, where your small appliances can go to, and you can hide and tuck away, is also really great as well. But like these things, to try to think about how to store the appliances, is an integral part to decluttering your counter space. One of the things that I always do when I first clear off, or just to think about cleaning out my counter space, is actually basically it's just clear off everything. I always like to start with a clean slate, right? Because when you start with a clean slate, you have more your freedom to basically rethink about how the space can actually like look and feel. I do this for my family, I do this for my clients, and we just find it all super helpful. So, be selective in what you want to keep for visual clutter, right? Because countertops can easily be filled with your mail, can easily be filled with just food that you just recently bought, with condiments, whatnot, right? So be very selective. So some things that I always like to keep on my countertop that I can easily grab are obviously fruits. Obviously I know if I keep something on the countertop, I'm most likely to eat it, and my kids are likely to eat it. If I keep snacks on there, obviously they're going to eat the snacks. So what you see is usually like what you take into your body as well, right? Having clear jars is also a great thing as well too. I know this basically involves a little bit more time involved, but at the end it actually will make your life and your wellness into prepping your foods a little bit easier as well, because what everything is in between. And the great thing about glass is that it just keeps it fresher longer as well.
I have a comment
And
about that. Can I
yeah,
say
yeah,
something?
go ahead.
So, as a young girl from in college and, got my first place trying to organize my kitchen, I had containers that were like stainless steel. And
Mhm.
I just didn't know what was in it all the time. I had to check it to refill it, but the glass is it's very pretty. It's effective because you can look right at it and say, okay, flour is low. Okay, I need to buy more flour. This is low. Okay, I need to restock. So constantly you're able to see it. So as far as wellness is concerned, make sure you get glasses that are lead free. Some glasses are made with lead. They leach out. And if you're putting acidic things in glass or different things of that sort, you want to be careful of that. But I love that concept to get glass and to also put fruits and veggies on the counter and take the mail off the counter, take the appliances if you are able to off the counter, stock them underneath if you can. Certain appliances you may not have space for, but I know Elizabeth will get into that of where to put things in a second. But yeah, I love this idea.
Thank you. Thank you so much for chiming in on that. One other thing is, having systems in place, right? So if you have a system in place where things belong, like of what Sue Ellen had just kind of shared before, for example, for your refrigerator, if there's zones, it just really makes it simple for you to kind of reorganize every time you buy new groceries. And then, your children become adapt to that. And then your family, your husband, whatnot, everyone just kind of becomes adapt to that. But if there's no systems in place, then things are just kind of out of order. So that's, one very important thing about decluttering your counter space. And less accessories. I know I'm guilty of this because I love to shop. I go to Target, I go to Home Goods, I go to all of these things, Crate & Barrel, whatnot, and I love to just buy beautiful things, right? But then I'm like, why did I buy it? I don't even have space for it. So, for your kitchen countertop, less is more, so use those maybe on a shelf or whatnot, but keep your counter space clean. So then you'll have space to actually prep your food and really think through, how you really want to organize your kitchen. So here, keeping things organized, here's just kind of like a quick tip. This is really, when you actually start, if you're redesigning a kitchen or if you already have a kitchen and you kind of want to reorganize everything, this is what I like to do. I like to put post-it notes or paper with the tape on, and I'm like, okay, this is how this is going to be organized and try to keep it that way, right? Have plates in one section, cups, bowls, pots, cleaning supplies, whatnot. And everything that's usually on the lower part of the cabinetry. So the base cabinets are basically anything that's below the countertop. Anything below there, I always keep things that I typically use all the time, and things that I typically don't use, like wine glasses, dinnerware for family dinners on special occasions like Thanksgiving or Christmas, I tend to keep way up high. So anything that you want to have easy accessibility, keep it at hand's reach. Someone small and short like me, everything needs to basically be at like 5 feet or whatnot. So just some things to keep in mind. So
Elizabeth, can I
yeah.
interrupt? Your screen, for some reason, the words are cut off in the photos. Is that what everyone sees? On my end, I see your words. Certain
Hmm.
things are kind of cut off. Do you have the green rectangular square?
Oh,
Make sure it's all the way around your slides so we don't miss
oh,
anything.
okay. How about now?
Just notice now. Now I don't see. Okay, yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling me. I
I
had no idea.
I thought the words were just large, and then as you continued, I was like, no, maybe she doesn't have the screen on, the green highlighter around the correct
Well,
area.
thank you so much. Okay. Well, hopefully everyone can see a little bit better now. So here, so basically, when you're thinking about your kitchen, if you're redesigning or thinking about redesigning, like one of the big things about a kitchen is having drawers or cabinets, right? And thinking through like what is most useful when putting things inside, right? A lot of people will say, okay, yeah, cabinets is fine. But, the thing about cabinets is that a lot of times, you don't really think through of the function of the inside, right? Because you're just thinking through, okay, this is how the cabinets are going to like laid out. But you really need to think through the function of each of the cabinetry. So, one of the things that I love is if I'm doing base cabinets is I always do pull out um, drawers. So regardless if it's doors or drawers, as you see here, I always have roll out drawers. So then it's easy to just find things. Um, so as you can see here, invest in some clever organizing solutions. Here you see some nice herbs that are, there's that you can find on Amazon, Target, Container Store, whatnot, that you can put some herbs in, just really thinking through how you're going to organize each of the cabinets are, a key component to decluttering your kitchen. Work hard. Work smart, not harder. So once you start creating a smarter organization solution, there's so many out there, but this is just one of them. One of my big issues in my house is, I have a lot of pots and pans because like I like to cook, and my parents, like when they come over, my mom loves to cook. So she's always buying me really large pots and pans. And I'm like, I have no idea what to do with these. So basically, one of the really smart ways and clean ways is, stacking obviously your pots and pans, not vertically, but, on top of each other. So you actually see what you have, right? And really going through all of your pots and pans to really think about like, do I really need this? Like, am I really like, do I use this on a daily? And also keeping your lids organized as well. I know that's one of my key problems is like, really just sometimes like I will misplace a lid because I put it somewhere else. So just keeping all of these pieces together will help you efficiently, with prepping your meal as well. These are just some additional ideas for decluttering your kitchen and also your cabinets. There's obviously a lot of fun clever ways out there, but as you can see here, storing your cutting boards and baking trays all vertically versus horizontally, so you actually see where everything is also super helpful. So if you're redesigning your kitchen, all of these things are really important to think through, right? And not just having like a big open cabinet. So there's always storage solutions every single time whenever you like design your kitchen. So just really think through all of those things because it's so important. And lastly, label everything, right? We talked about having glass containers. I know for me, if I label everything, like sometimes I guess there's pros and cons in each, right? I know like there's always going to be sugar, there's always going to be salt, pepper, so for certain herbs, like I know that we're always going to have it. So if I have those containers labeled, um, I know that we can always refill and we will always know we're low on something or whatnot. Sue Ellen already talked a little bit about this, so I'm just going to kind of really high level touch on it. She talked about the zones and whatnot. One of the things that I love about, in the kitchens, especially for refrigerators, when it comes to selecting a refrigerator, there's pros and cons of having deep refrigerators versus more shallow refrigerators, right? So oftentimes if it's too deep, you can't, like, you forget what's behind there, and then you forget that, oh my God, like I bought that jam a long time ago because you never really see it, so a lot of times, like when I'm helping my clients design their kitchen, I'll ask them, like, how often do you go grocery shopping? Like, how often do you really, like, is your refrigerator full all the time? So that's really one of the key components too, as well. Prepping your meal, it also affects, like, thinking through how you select your appliances and how you actually use them on a day-to-day basis. And if you're really, really organized, you could get like clear containers. I always recommend clear containers because it's easily, you can easily see it. But that's, in addition as well to like what you already have there. But clear containers is always a go-to for myself.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I want to chime in. I definitely understand about things getting lost behind the fridge. I mentioned earlier when I was presenting that you can have things so deep behind the fridge that you have no idea what's going on. So those containers can come really handy, and we'll give you opportunity to link up with Liz so she could tell you more about how to access certain items and things of that sort. But the containers are a great idea.
Thank you. And then just a quick tip for, any appliances, I always tell my clients to go to Yield Appliance because they have everything there, so if, from shallow to deep, Yield Appliance is the place to go to. So in terms of, the last topic here is, in terms of space and in terms of wellness as well, is to make it cheery, right? So having natural light, layers of artificial lighting is very important for meal prepping as well as, for healthy living. So as you can see here on the left side, there's a lot of natural light coming from the left side. It's like lots of windows. Lots of under cabinet lighting, for an area that is a little bit darker, more enclosed. And then in the kitchen, especially, it's really, really important to have different layers of lighting. Obviously, it's great. I always recommend to have under cabinet lighting, overhead recessed lighting, and then, if you like to have a little bit of that decorative element, you can also have the kitchen pendants or the kitchen lights over your island to add that additional like layer of beauty in your space. So here are some very technical drawings that most of you probably are like, what am I looking at? But, this is really just to show you, some of the things that we think about as interior designers when it comes to lighting, when it comes to the function of the home or a function of a space, in any space. So, these dots here represents the light, right? So it represents the recessed light. And then here, these yellow lines here represents under cabinet light. So as you can see here on the diagram, again, this shows you different layers of lighting in this space to make sure that your counter space, your prep space is nicely lit. And then your overhead light is also lit, so you can actually see where you are working and walking around. And then you have your island, if you have the luxury of having an island, having some additional lighting there too is also great as well. One thing that many clients actually don't really. How are we doing time? Well, it's like 7:30, so we're almost done here. So when it comes to the lighting levels and the color temperature of the space, I always recommend using cozier lighting, especially for a home. So I always recommend here is the 3000 Kelvin. So for those that don't know much about what kelvins are, it's really meant to just so depending on how your space is, like if you have a 3000 Kelvin lamp, the space will tend to be in the middle between, like a little bit almost like the sun, but not too blue. So not too stark, right? So it just gives you kind of like that cozy feeling. So think about like a very high-end restaurant, right? So when you go there, it just kind of has a nice ambiance. And also, I always recommend this because your food renders well. Most food renders well in the 3000 Kelvin. The only food that I know that doesn't really render that well is fish, because fish tends to be a little more blue. So, 4000 Kelvin, which is a little bit starker in a space, is best to render fish. But everything else, I always recommend a 3000 Kelvin for a space. Natural lighting, is always a plus. So if you have windows, skylights or whatnot, if you're redesigning your space or thinking through what you currently have and how you can actually improve your space, thinking about how to bring more natural light in is also very imperative to a healthy life. And the 5 key questions here really quickly, just some things for you guys to really think about when decluttering your kitchen. First of all, think about, do you actually use these items on a daily basis? Does it truly add value, to your cooking, to your life? Can you use something else if you don't have it? Right? Because again, less is more, right? If you're trying to minimize and you're trying to declutter, there's some things that you have to get rid of, in order to have a functional kitchen. And then does the item make you happy? And does it spark joy? Does anybody know who Marie Kondo is? So she's all about sparking joy, right? And I truly believe in that too, because if it doesn't spark joy, then why even, keep it? And lastly, I want to leave all of you with this quote, is to edit your life frequently and ruthlessly. It's your masterpiece after all, right? So your home is your oasis. It's the integral part of your wellness. So take care of it, because it's really all about you at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Awesome quotes, and it has so many applications. We didn't have time. Well, actually, today's presentation wasn't about detoxing your home, but as a program that I provide, in addition to some services Elizabeth has, there's ways to make your home more like an oasis. Special plants in your home, special lighting. We didn't talk about UV light versus non-UV lights. There's certain lights that are stimulating that they're not helpful for your circadian rhythm at night. You want to have dim lights. So when you think about kitchen, you want to think about what kind of light you want to have in your kitchen, what lights you want to have on when the sun is down versus the sun is up, because lights can keep you up at night. That's wellness, which we didn't really get into in this presentation, but lighting in your kitchen, as she mentioned, is important to think about. And as far as what we all said, the goal is to declutter so you can meal prep like a boss. We gave you several strategies to help you declutter. Elizabeth spoke about this spacing and other aspects, and I spoke about shopping lists, strategies, zones, and for those of you who came later, you could always go back and listen to the presentation. I really do hope this was helpful, and we are running out of time, so I want to open it up for a couple of minutes to those who have questions for myself or for Elizabeth. Okay, let me see here. Okay, Elizabeth, I have a question for you. If you have a smaller kitchen, that triangle that you mentioned earlier, the spacing, how does that interfere with you having everything that you need, or how does it interfere with your flow of the kitchen? Is smaller kitchen, can you still have a good flow, or do you need to have a large kitchen to have the better flow so that you can move quickly when you want to cook, then you want to prep over here, then you want to refrigerate and stock over here? How does that work with a smaller kitchen? You're on mute.
Sorry, I just realized that.
Okay.
So yeah, no, thank you for the question. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what size kitchen you have, small or large, medium size. If you live in an apartment versus, like a bigger house that's like 2 to 3,000 or 5,000 square feet, it's really how it is laid out functionally. Right. So you can really live in a condo in New York City, in the heart of Boston, and still have a very functional kitchen, right? Because it's really about the layout, so a lot of times if you inherit something, obviously you can't really change that, but you can improve it, right? So if there's ways that you can add floating shelves for additional storage needs, or if there's ways that you can actually, add some like, bins or whatnot, or some dividers inside the cabinets, like that can also improve as well, but in terms of the layout, in terms of the triangle, obviously, depending on where you live and what you can do, sometimes you basically have to kind of manage what you have there, right? And just improve it unless you're able to change the layout. But in terms of the layout, it can happen in any size space.
Okay, that's good to know. And I did forget to mention one of the tools, and earlier we talked about kitchen tools that you should try to have it at home. And it's not a particular tool, but it's an item that you should try to have if you're trying to meal prep: containers. You want to invest in some really good containers. I prefer glass or silicone. BPA-free plastic is like last on the list. BPA, bisphenol A, toxin that leaks from certain substances like chemical plastic wares. So if you heat that up, or sometimes if it's on, the food is hot when you put it in, also that can leach into the food. So you want to be careful of that as an environmental toxin. So invest in some containers, and you can go over to a 360 Girls and Women Favorites. We have some items that we like. We don't endorse any particular brands of any products, but there's just items that we love. And if you want to take a look at our shop store, you could take a glance there. And Elizabeth will also share with you things that she loved. But if you have containers, you are going to be set, because they're going to be, something that you're going to continue to use, whether you're cooking and storing food in your home or whether you're taking lunch out to go. When you have children, containers come in, are very handy as well. When you have children, you have to pack things to go. So that's definitely on your list to get. And there are different price ranges out there. Start small and then build yourself up into having a good amount of containers that you can rotate through and store. Make sure you have the space to store as well.
Yes, having the storage space is definitely key, right, to declutter. So.
All right, let's see if we have any other questions. Are we waiting for the giveaway surprise? We have the giveaway surprise that we have to talk about before we end. I guess we'll go right into that.
Let's go right into it.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, do you want to go first? Tell us what you're going to provide for the audience. We're actually going to provide something together, but I could let Elizabeth talk about her piece as well.
Sure. Yeah. So, I love to help whoever, so 30 minutes of free consultation of anything that you want to discuss, kitchen, any space in particular of your liking that you really want to go over. And all questions are welcome, so if you have floor plans, struggles or anything on lighting, just, send them my way. So I have 30 minutes that I will be offering.
Yes, and typically this is a consultation that's charged, so where she's offering that for 30 minutes, and I'm going to team up with her as well, and we're going to be charging together as an hour, 30 and 30, to offer some nutrition advice in terms of where you are in the life cycle of a girl and a woman. So whether you're a young adolescent, young girl, older young women or older women are into motherhood, there are specific strategies that you may want to think about when you're trying to prepare meals for specific condition, or you want to prepare for the birth of a child or different things. And there's nutritional concerns that you may want to consider, and we can discuss that on that session. So we'll be giving away a consultation with me, the women's health dietitian, and with principal designer Elizabeth. So we're going to be emailing the winner. We're going to pick a winner from here live session, and we're going to email you within 24 hours. And you will get your giveaway surprise. And if you don't claim it in 24 hours, we will give it to somebody else. So make sure you check your email. Those of you that signed up, I'm going to take a note. Elizabeth, can you help me take a note of those who are here? And I'm going to check your names with your email to make sure that we have the right person. So if you want to, anyone by chance, if you want to double check and drop your email into the chat box as well, so you don't miss this opportunity. But if you signed up and you sent our email, we should have it. So we have.
I have them all.
You have them all? Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So if we do not have any questions, we don't have any time to talk about other resources and packages. We do have things that we can send you after the presentation. And I'm gonna just you have your screen with your contact information?
My screen? I
Yeah.
think it's in your presentation.
Oh, it's in my presentation. Oh, you want to end yours?
Yeah.
And then I